Yo, what is up guys? Welcome to the day 39 recap of the 2016-2017 NBA season. Alright, so I think a majority of people can still agree that LeBron James is the best player in the NBA. I think a majority of people can agree upon that, but then when it comes to number 2, there's a lot of different opinions. Well, for me, I think it has to be James Harden. It's not just because the Rockets went out and beat the Warriors in double OT last night in one of the best games in the NBA season so far, if not the best game of the NBA season so far. It's not just because of that, but it's because of what he's been doing all season long. He had another triple-double last night with 29 points, 13 assists, and 15 rebounds. And he also had a block and a steal, so in case you didn't know, yes, James Harden is playing defense this year. On the year, listen to what he's averaging. Yo, it's 28 points per game, just under 29, 12 assists, and 7 rebounds, basically 8 per game. It's not quite Russell Westbrook status, yo. It's not quite Russell Westbrook status, but at the same time, he doesn't have to do as much for his team as Russell Westbrook. Yes, his usage rate is the second highest in the NBA, only second to Russell Westbrook. So Russell Westbrook does have to do a little bit more for his team as a whole. But if you had to ask me if I had to choose between who is the better player of the two, I would most likely go with James Harden just because his overall all-around game is a bit better than Russell Westbrook, in my opinion. We can all agree he's a better shooter than Russell Westbrook. He's not shooting that great from 3 so far this year, but we all know James Harden can knock down 3. He's only shooting 35% on the year right now. He was 2 from 11 downtown last night. And the Rockets are surprising a lot of people this year. I made a video a while back about the Rockets being one of the most slept on teams coming into the season, and they're proving me right. They are 12-7 on the year. Nothing fantastic or anything, but much better than they were last year. Ryan Anderson and Eric Gordon were a great addition. Ryan Anderson was fire last night. You know, he's one of those players that when he's on, he is on and he's basically unstoppable. Not unstoppable, but he's not gonna miss. He had 29 points last night. He was 5 of 10 from 3. He always made a 3 when the Rockets needed him. That's basically when he made a shot. Exactly when the Rockets needed him to do something, he did something. Same can be said for Eric Gordon. Yo, he had 23 points last night and is a candidate for 6th man of the year. Most definitely a candidate for 6th man of the year, as he's averaging over 16 points and just under 3 assists and 3 rebounds per game. And then of course you still have Clint Capella, who is also having a really nice season. He could be a sleeper candidate for most improved player. I don't think he's improved as some other players, but he has most definitely improved. On the year so far, Clint Capella is averaging like 12 points, 8 rebounds, and just under 2 blocks per game in only 26 minutes. Offensively, this Rockets team is just a thing of beauty to watch. I mean, it's a lot of fun to watch this Rockets team. Same can be said for the Warriors though. The Warriors are a fun team to watch. Even if I'm not a Warriors fan, I do admit that they are a fun team to watch offensively. The Rockets got the better of them last night. I mean, it was like the battle of like the 2 best offensive teams in the league. Fun fact real quick, the Rockets and Warriors shot the most threes in NBA history combined last night. A combined total of 88 three-pointers were chucked up in last night's game. 88 threes in one. That's crazy. For the Warriors though, you know, Kevin Durant had 39 points. Draymond Green almost had a triple-double, 20 points, 15 rebounds, 9 assists, and 1 kick to the face. Stephen Curry fouled out with 28 points, and Klay Thompson struggled from that night, being defended by James Harden. So maybe that's another sign that James Harden is playing defense. He had 15 points on 4 of 20 shooting. Another anticipated game from last night was the Clippers vs. Cavs. In this game, LeBron James passed Bob Cousy for number 16 in the all-time assist list, and the Los Angeles Clippers were passing the ball. The Clippers had a season-high 33 assists on the night, and that's the one thing they weren't doing during their losing streak. I remember the game against Indiana where they only had, what was it, like 11 assists total as a team, 10 or 11 assists as a team. Tonight they had 33. This was the Clippers that would look like one of the best teams in the NBA a few games ago. Great on offense and great on defense. I just want to talk about Blake Griffin for a minute here. He didn't have like an outstanding game. Well, actually, I would say he did have an outstanding game. He only had 13 points, but what was outstanding was his passing. Can we just talk about the progression that Blake Griffin has made throughout his career so far? He comes into the league, he's known as the guy that can posterize, you know, he will dunk on you, and that's about it. He will dunk, and that's all. A few years later, he finally developed a little bit of a post game, you know, just a smidgen of a post game where he could do a little bit more on the offensive end than just dunk. But that was about it. And then he developed like a little bit of a jump shot. He could hit like a 12 to 15 foot jumper. And now let's fast forward to now. The man can lead a fast break. He can be a one-man fast break. He can run an offense. He can do everything offensively. He can look like a 6'10" point guard out there. Some of his passes are spectacular. I remember one pass last night where Blake Griffin was operating out of the post. He saw like a double team coming, and then Bahamute like cut to the rim. He did like a rocket no-look pass to Bahamute. It was a pretty pass. And Blake Griffin has gotten a lot better at passing, and his whole offensive game, and I don't think people have really recognized or acknowledged that yet. I mean, he's still seen as just, you know, like a highlight reel player, which he's more than that. Some of his plays do end up on the highlight reel, but he's a better all-around player than people give him credit for. Someone else who I don't think people give enough credit to is JJ Redick. Redick is a key to this Clippers team. Most people just think it's, Chris Paul, DeAndre Jordan, and Blake Griffin, but no, without JJ Redick, this team would not operate as well as it does because they don't have the best three-point shooting on this team. Let's be honest here, outside of JJ Redick and Chris Paul, no one else on this team is like a serious outside threat. You could say, yeah, Austin Rivers can knock down an occasional three, so can Jamal Crawford. But it's really, JJ Redick is their best shooter, and a team without a shooter won't go very far. For the Cavs, they have lost 2 straight games in a row. Yeah, but you're still not worried about the Cavs. They're still the best team in the East. They're gonna finish #1 in the East. I mean, it's 2 straight games in a row, no big deal. You know who is a big deal? Giannis Antetokounmpo. Yes, I said that name right. Giannis Antetokounmpo. He had 23 points, 8 rebounds, 8 assists, 4 steals, and 2 blocks last night. On the year so far, Giannis is averaging just under 23 points, 8 rebounds, 6 assists, 2 blocks, and 2 steals. And real quick, here's a list of players that are averaging at least 20 points, 5 rebounds, 5 assists, 2 blocks, and 2 steals so far this year. Here's a list of those players. Giannis freaking Antetokounmpo. That is the only player you will ever see on that list. How good is he going to be? How good is he going to be? He's already amazing. He's already an all-star, basically a superstar. In my mind, Giannis Antetokounmpo is a borderline superstar already. He's leading this Bucks team, who people didn't think would be this good already. I mean, they're not like amazing, but they are 9-8, which is better than I think people thought they were going to be going into the season, considering Chris Middleton is out. But he's leading this Bucks team, and they're pulling off some impressive wins. Now, I wouldn't say yesterday was an impressive win. They did play the Brooklyn Nets, but they did blow the Brooklyn Nets out. So that's a good sign when you're blowing out teams that are worse than you, which is a good sign that you know what you're doing. Defensively, this man is just a monster. He can guard 1 through 5 with ease. I mean, some of the bigger, like bulkier centers in the NBA he struggle with, like I wouldn't put him on like Andre Drummond or DeMarcus Cousins, but if you're just like someone like Clint Capella, I wouldn't mind. In that offense, you can put him in any position you want. I mean, he's a primary ball handler. He's a 7-foot tall primary ball handler, which is insane. And the only thing he really struggles with on the offensive end is his jump shot, and as of late, it's been looking better. He was 2 of 5 from 3 last night. He was 7 of 14 from the field, and his jump shot is improving. So by the time next season, I think Giannis Antetokounmpo will have a consistent jump shot, which will make him virtually unstoppable. For the Nets, though, who would have thought last season that you could say this season you could see a game that Brook Lopez takes 8 threes? The Charlotte Hornets beat the Dallas Mavericks last night. Once again, no one's surprised here. Mark Cuban, you may not want to tank, or you may not want to think that you're tanking, but you are tanking, Mark Cuban. There's no getting around this. You will not make the playoffs. You will get a high draft pick. Consider yourself lucky. Do not try and make any trades to make the playoffs. Do not make an attempt to make the playoffs. Do not trade any draft picks to make the playoffs. Do not do anything to make the playoffs. If anything, unload talent, whatever talent you have left on this team, so you can get even further into the NBA draft to secure that #1 draft pick, which it looks like you were heading for right now. Kemba Walker had 18 points. It was just overall balanced scoring game for the Charlotte Hornets. They didn't even have like the best game. The Charlotte Hornets didn't have the best game, but it was enough to get the win over the Dallas Mavericks, of course. The Miami Heat have won 2 games in a row. They beat the Utah Jazz last night. The Jazz didn't have Rodney Hood or George Hill, so my theory about when George Hill doesn't play, the Jazz aren't the best team in the NBA still stands true, even when, I shouldn't say the best team in the NBA, but they're not as good as they are with George, which is kind of obvious, but at the same time, they lose a lot when George Hill doesn't play. And let me just stop talking. The Jazz didn't have George Hill or Rodney Hood, and they only lost by 1 point. They had a chance to win it at the end. Gordon Hayward was amazing though. He had 32 points. He was shooting the lights out. He had 32 points, 7 assists and 3 rebounds, and a couple of steals. And for the Miami, Goran Dragic had a good game. Dion Waiters also didn't play, so I guess you could say that balanced out. Dion Waiters is basically just as good as George Hill and Rodney Hood combined. So, you get the production of George Hill and Rodney Hood on a nightly basis from Dion Waiters. Dion Waiters is the GOAT. Goran Dragic had a good game for the Miami Heat, and so did James Johnson. The Miami Heat got the win. I mean, they moved to 7-12 on the year. They're another team that desperately needs just to hit the lottery to keep rebuilding, or to start rebuilding, because I don't think they've started yet. Last but least, the Memphis Grizzlies edge out the Orlando Magic. I feel sorry for the Memphis Grizzlies organization. Freaking Mike Conley can't stay healthy, and Mike Conley is a good player. Do I think he was worth his contract? No, of course not. Who does? Besides the Memphis Grizzlies organization, who does think Mike Conley is worth his contract? I mean, he's a great player. He's a good point guard, but 30 plus million a year I can't justify that. Then again, this organization also handed Chandler Parsons a max contract, and he has barely played for them this season as well. And once again, this is another team, the Memphis Grizzlies, where I honestly think signing Mike Conley to that extension was a bad move, because I don't see this team competing for the NBA championship with this roster. They signed Mike Conley to a max contract long term. They signed Chandler Parsons to a long-term max contract. So they're basically stuck with what they have for the next few years. So they will be a playoff team, I think, but no better than that for a long time. But that about wraps it up for the Day 39 recap of the 2016-2017 NBA season. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Make sure to smash the like button if you did, and don't forget to subscribe for more content like this every single day. And you guys already know I'll be right back here tomorrow recapping the action from tonight. So until then, keep getting the buckets, Team SDC, and I'm out of here. Peace!